Welcome to BioHack and Build a Better You, the podcast where we unlock the secret to living a longer, healthier life and create a bloom zone in our life and within our family. I'm your host, Michaela Morell, and I'm here to provide you with the tools and knowledge to empower you to build a better you, one essential building block at a time. In today's episode, I will explain the blood work of a balance test. If your test shows a lot of red, don't be scared. The good news is that this is the most modifiable risk factor for disease, health, and longevity, and we can correct the imbalances. Print out your own result or follow along on my numbers as I'm showing what my first test looked like back in 2019. I want to remind you that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Read the disclaimer in the show notes, and I want to remind you to always consult your healthcare provider if you plan to make any dietary changes. Today, we're going to go through a balance test. So if you have ordered your own test, you had prick in the finger, 2 drops of blood, you have sent it off, and if you have your results, please have your results in front of you because you may only be listening to this. If you're on YouTube and watching this live, you will be able to see my blood work. So I am using my test. So if you haven't done a blood test of your own, you can head over to YouTube to see my numbers. If not, you will have your numbers in front of you, printed out or on your computer. So let's get started. The first result we're looking at is the omega-6 to 3 balance. So what does that mean? Well, maybe we need to explain a little bit first. Omega-6 is something that is essential. We cannot create it. We need to either eat it or supplement with it. Omega-6 is coming from everything that grows. So every fruit, every veggie, every corn, everything that grows. And since our animals are also eating those kind of things, so we find omega-6 in pretty much everything we're eating. Omega-6 is what, if we cut ourselves, omega-6 will create the inflammation needed to stop the bleeding. So if we don't have enough of omega-6, we will not be able to create inflammation and we will not be able to stop the bleeding and we would bleed out. So omega-6 is pro-inflammatory. We need to have it. It's essential. When something is essential, it means that we cannot live without it. The reason why a lot of people have not heard about omega-6 is simply because we don't have to talk about it because it's in everything we eat. So most people, unless you're struggling with under eating, no one really needs to supplement with it. So that's why omega-6 never comes up in a conversation. But it is there, it's essential, so we are measuring it. Omega-3, on the other hand, is also essential. We cannot make it. We need to either eat it through our food or through supplementation. Omega-3 is what stops the inflammation. Whenever we have omega-6 that starts the inflammation and the inflammation is done, we have stopped the bleeding, then we need omega-3 to come in and then stop the inflammation. So we need to have a good ratio. Think of it as an on and off button of inflammation, or think about it as pyromaniac versus fireman. So at this blood test I'm having in front of me, I don't know what your numbers are, but my numbers were 9.4 to 1. So I basically had 9.4 pyromaniacs to every fireman, which means there is not enough of water to put all of those fires out. It's too much inflammation on a cellular level, and my blood test looked really red. So when we're looking at omega-6 to omega-3 levels, what are optimal? The field of science are recommending 3 to 1 or lower, and preferably as close to 1 to 1. If you want to research this yourself, I recommend you to go to Google Scholar. Not only Google, but Google Scholar is where you find all peer-reviewed articles, and you type in omega-3 ratio, and you can read among there. But if you search for importance of omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, an article with Dr. Simopoulos will pop up, and she will explain how in Western diets, in 2002, the average was about 15 to 1. And if we were able to lower it down to 4 to 1, that was associated with 70% decrease in total mortality when we're looking at cardiovascular disease. She was also able to see that a 2.5 to 1 reduced rectal cell proliferations in patients with rectal cancer, whereas a 4 to 1 did not have any effect. It also showed benefits of having a lower ratio when we're looking at the risk of developing breast cancer and also arthritis and also how a lower ratio would be beneficial for asthma. But there is a lot of different studies out there, but I recommend to go out and do the research. But from my understanding and from what I can find is that it seems like the closer to 1-to-1 we're getting, the less problems we're experiencing with our health. Then we go over to omega-3 index. Mine was at 5.3%. When we're looking at the omega-3 index, we want it to be above 8% and preferably 10 to 12%. In the past few years, many articles have come out that have been showing that if we're having a lower omega-3 index, we can predict early death. So they could see that people with an 8% or higher omega-3 index had on average 4.7 years longer life expectancy. Then there is a column of mental strength. And mental strength has to do with how much DHA you have for your brain. Your brain is mainly built up of fat, and that fat is mainly built up with DHA. It's about 60% of the fat in your brain is built with DHA. DHA is one of the fatty acids that comes from omega-3, but it is essential for our brain health. It's also essential for our heart health and our eye health, but especially for our brain. So when we're looking at how much DHA we have, if we're lacking too much, we will be more prone to develop headaches, migraines, brain fog, and eventually dementia and Alzheimer's. So we want to make sure that the brain has what it needs to create as good circumstances for our brain to be able to function optimally. Then the next parameter is called cell membrane fluidity. Mine was at 6.7-to-1. We want it to be below 4-to-1. So in my case, my cell membranes were about twice as hard as they're supposed to, which can cause the body to not be able to absorb as many nutrients as we're supposed to from the food we're eating. So if you feel like you're the person that is eating home-cooked food, maybe you're even growing some of your own, and still feel like your body is not functioning as optimal as it could, then it might be your cell membrane fluidity levels that might be prohibiting all the nutrients to get into the cells to be converted to energy. So if someone is 12-to-1, that's about 3 times too hard. If someone is 16-to-1, that's about 4 times too hard. But what's on your first blood test is not really what's matter, because that had been the truth up till today. But now we're doing changes. So from now on, it will only look better. And you're using this as a baseline of where your health used to be. And now we're going to improve your health, and you are going to be able to see what is happening. So don't be alarmed if everything is red today. It only means that your body is not having optimal levels for being able to function as good as possible. Some people is already feeling it in different symptoms. It can be poor sleep. It can be mood-related issues. It can be dry skin, eczema. It can be different conditions that you are diagnosed with. But what is important to understand is don't be alarmed. Just be thankful and grateful that you now have new knowledge about your health and that you now can start taking steps towards a healthier you. On my blood test, my protection value is at 15%. Many people are at 0% here, and it has everything to do how much omega-3 you have in your system. My omega-3 index was at 5.3%, so I did have some good levels of omega-3, but it's still not quite enough. The protection value is basically, if you did the test today, you would just fail the test, I only had 15% right when we're coming to my omega-3 levels in my body. We want that to be 90 to 100%. And if we're having a low protection value, we're just more subjected to be prone to develop diseases linked to omega-3 deficiency. So that is just measuring how much omega-3 basically you have in your body. And we need to get that up to a good test result. And if you want to get more educated on what kind of diseases are linked to omega-3 deficiency, I would encourage you to go over to Google Scholar again, research omega-3 and whatever issue you might be struggling with, and read up on the importance of having good omega-3 index and ratio in regards to that issue. When we're looking at arachidonic acid, that one in my case was very elevated. For most people, arachidonic acid levels, the AA index, is green or yellow, Mine was red, and I'm going to explain why further down, but it's not a good sign when it's red. We don't want it elevated. For example, during COVID, we could see that people did not usually die of COVID. It died of the cytokine storms happening in your body due to too high levels of arachidonic acid. So we want to get your arachidonic acid levels in the right ratio. And having high arachidonic acid is a big sign of your body having major problems with inflammation. And if you have heard my episode number 1, you will know what kind of health issues I was struggling with prior to taking this test, about all of my allergies, and also about my chronic neck pain that caused me to feel like I was paralyzed in most positions my body would be in. So, and if you're curious on my own journey, you can go back to episode 1 and listen to that. That was the overview. And now we're going to go down. You will be able to see different parameters. Again, it's just the same values that we were talking through, but you'll be able to see where you are at on the different scales. And we, of course, want to move up to green. But when we go down to details of fatty acid measured, that is where the interesting part will be. This test is measuring 98% of all the fatty acids in your body. So it's one of the most comprehensive blood works you can do in regards of measuring if your body has what it needs to be able to function optimally. We're going to start with saturated fats. Saturated fats you find mainly in animal products. My blood work was a little bit low on palmitic acids, but it was spot on stearic acid. You will be able to see what target range you're supposed to be at, and then you will see your value and then the deviation you have from that value in percentage. So this blood work is very easy for you to be able to read all by yourself without having a practitioner helping you to translate it. You will be able to see how far from the target value you are so that you know how you best can target your health. When we're looking at omega-9, I was also having 10% in deviation that was negative. If you are low in omega-9, I wouldn't worry too much if you start using the same omega-3 that I use, that is a special blend between extra virgin olive oil and fish oil, because that combination is truly helping the fish oil being bioavailable in our system. But the extra virgin olive oil is rich in omega-9 with a lot of polyphenols, which is very beneficial for our overall health. Looking at the blood work, you have 4 different types of omega-6. And they have placed it in an order so it's easy to understand, because linoleic acid, the LA, can be converted to GLA, that can be converted to DGLA, that can be converted to AA. So they are structured in order. When you're looking at my blood work, I have a deviation on the LA that is 8.7%, so I have a little bit too much of LA. I'm spot on GLA, but then I'm very high on DGLA. I'm at 68% deviation. And if you go back to the episode number 22, that is about DGLA, you can learn what you need to do in order to correct a very high level of DGLA. It can have a relationship to enzyme issues, to protein issues, to liver issues, and also you lacking magnesium, K2, and so on. And then looking at the arachidonic acid, it's also very high. It's at 39%. So I basically have very high levels of omega-6s in my body that is causing way too much inflammation. And the way it's structured, it gives us keys that something else was wrong with my body. It wasn't only that I was eating a lot of omega-6, because if it was, I would be pretty leveled. But now I'm very high on the DGLA and AA, and that is something that needs attention. So I would recommend you to learn more in episode 22 about DGLA. So when we're looking at omega-3 levels, ALA is the omega-3 that comes from plant sources. So flax seeds, walnuts, avocados, and so on. ALA can get converted to EPA, but it's only about a 5% conversion. If a person have been a vegan or vegetarian for many, many years, you might have a little bit higher conversion rate because your body is lacking EPA and DHA from the marine source so much that the body have created a little bit better ability to convert it. So they have been able to see that vegans can sometimes convert up to 10% of the ALA into EPA, but it's still a very small conversion rate. Then EPA can get converted to DPA and DPA can get converted to DHA. EPA is what we need for every single cell. It's essential for every single cell membrane in your body. So all 37 trillions of cells need EPA. So that is important for every single cell. And the DHA is what builds up 60% of the fat up in our brain. So we need DHA. And the body is so smart that it will always try to convert as much as it can to DHA, which means that on your blood work, you will see that the deviation on your DHA levels will probably be smaller than the deviation on the EPA. In my case, I have a 58% deviation on my EPA levels. I have 58% too little EPA, but I only have about 7% too little DHA. The reason for this is that the body is smart and understands that the day the brain is not functioning, that day we don't have a body. We need a brain to be able to have every function, every organ, every hormone working in our system. So that's why the body will always prioritize brain health over our body's health. And that is why it's so important if you start feeling like you're struggling mentally, that you take a test like this, because if you have been struggling so long that you start having symptoms, that means that your body have been deficient of omega-3 far too long. So the benefits of getting your omega levels in balance is that you will have a better cell function. The cells will be more flexible, permeable. Nutrients are easier going to be able to get in. Waste and toxins are able to get out. So the benefits of getting an omega balance are that, first of all, if you have enough of omega-3, you will build up healthy cells. And that will be healthy cells in your brain, in your skin, in your organs, in your gut, everywhere in your body. And you will have a good balance between the pro versus anti-inflammatory properties that the different fatty acids brings to the table. You will also have better benefits of the food you're eating or the supplementations you're already taking. So nutrients are able to get into the cells and waste and toxins are able to get out. On top of our cells, we also have hormone receptors. When we have too big imbalance between the omega-6 and omega-3, we can see that the hormone receptors get numbed out. So even if you're eating healthy and even if your levels looks good on the blood work, if you still feel like something is off and you're not having a body that you're happy with performance-wise, maybe it's too achy after you have been working out, maybe you're struggling with brain fog, or other types of symptoms that makes you understand that the body is crying because it's not able to function. What we have to understand is that the body always tries to function. It always wants to perform. It always wants to heal. So when it cannot do that, it's usually because it had either run out of fuel, something is wrong with the motor, it's something that is going on, and we have to figure out why. I have still not met a single person that have headaches because the body is crying for ibuprofen. Ibuprofen have never been a part of our diet. It have never been a part of our body structure. And it is time for us to understand that our body is more like a vehicle, like a car, and it needs the right fuel to be able to run forward. And if it doesn't have the right fuel, it doesn't matter if you try to push it from behind and you can make it roll downhill, but then uphill, it's going to be harder again. We need to understand that we need to address the right root causes. And when we start doing that, your body is going to be more vibrant. It's going to be healthier, happier. You will see it on your skin. And you will just feel how every single cell of your body is thanking you in gratitude for you choosing to invest in your health. I hope this overview was easy to understand, and I'm so excited that you have started on this health journey, and I cannot wait for you to see your second blood test. My second blood test looked completely different from being all red and yellow. It turned into be mostly green and a little bit of yellow, and then it had kept on improving. And have I felt that in my body? Yes, I have. That's why I can sit here and be so excited over your journey because I know what is possible. Thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I'm Michaela Morel behind BioHack and Build a Better You. And this test might be the test that can make the biggest difference in your health. So I'm happy that you took it. Welcome to the balance journey. And if you have taken your test, go into my Instagram and comment with the test results you got on your first test. If you feel like that is something you would like to share to inspire people to just go out, do the test. Thank you guys for being here with me today. Bye-bye. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to do one thing for me. Think of one person you want to share this podcast with and copy the link and send it right away. Thanks for playing an important role in the Blue Zone community. And if you want to keep on building a better you, one essential building block at a time, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next episode.